All right, here we go. Hi, welcome to Shadows and Secrets Deep Dive series. I am Carrie Savage.
And I am Samantha Scall. Together, we are Shadows and Secrets, a series of retreats in an online community for mystery, thriller, and horror authors.
You can find out more on shadowsandsecrets.com.
Amazing. We're both book coaches and authors, and we love talking about story. This is our series of major spoiler alert deep dives into scary books we love, where we talk about twists, structure, masterful misdirection, villains, and anything else that strikes our fancy about MTS, which is the overarching genre term for mystery, thriller, and suspense. But first, I would like to introduce my co-founder of Shadows and Secrets, Carrie. Please tell the people a little bit more about what you do as a book coach.
Why, thank you, Sam. I am a writer and a book coach, and I love working with writers to make their fictional ideas come to life. I am super into immersive settings and details that really pull you into a book's world. Why don't you tell the people a little bit more about who you are, Sam?
Oh, I sure will. Thank you for asking. I love working with thriller, mystery, and suspense and horror authors who to plan and write twisty novels, and I especially dig brainstorming twists and villains. The darker, the better.
Amazing. So, as a reminder, as Sam said, we will be giving away everything today, including key plot points here. So, if you have not read today's book, hit pause, go read it, and then come back.
Yes, seriously, there will be no secrets unturned, so consider this your final spoiler alert warning. The structure of these talks is the same every time we do this. We're going to read the book jacket copy and what the author has done to manipulate us before we even start.
And then we read the first page and we talk about what the author has done to manipulate us there.
And then we are going to break down each of the major twists in terms of how the author did it, what percentage of the way through it happened, and what on-screen clues existed so that the twist worked.
We will also talk through how the author accomplished the overall misdirection and manipulation of the reader, and the way that the author used language or setting or other elements to set the reader up for maximum fear.
Excellent. Which is why we like to read the scary stuff. We like to be scared by fiction.
Hell yeah! Okay, are we
Are we
ready?
ready? We sure are. And I just was making a face because I was finding this on my phone. Okay, so today's book is by Marissa Cashino. Best offer wins. Marissa, thank you so much for writing this book. This is just absolutely incredible. And from the log line forward, I was like, oh, yes, I am stoked on this. Um, okay, so the log line, speaking of, I think it's on the book jacket copy, which do you have that ready to go?
I, yes, I
Okay.
do.
So it's basically something like, how far would you go for the house of your dreams?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
And spoiler alert, it goes exactly as far as you think it will.
Mm-hmm.
As I
Just what
was
we would
reading this,
expect.
I was like, ooh, is she gonna do it? Is she gonna do it? And then she did it, and it's amazing. And there is it's just chef's kiss, chef's kiss.
Yeah. Yeah. The way she pulls it all together, oh, just masterful.
Masterful, masterful. All
Yeah.
right, crush it. Give us the book jacket copy.
Okay, well, it starts out with all of the like things that this was picked for, and I remember this came out what about a year ago, I think. I think exactly a year ago in May of 2025. It was a USA Today bestseller. It was a Good Morning America book club pick, some other book club picks and best of lists. So like right, killing it right out of the gate. And then there is also a quote from Taylor Jenkins Reid, who recommended it as a must-read book of 2025 in Time magazine. So like, no small thing.
Yeah.
No
What I
big.
take away from that is that Taylor Jenkins Reid and we have the same opinions on
Oh,
books. So
sure. There you go.
best friends.
Of course. But then we get into the meat of the thing that Sam and I love so much.
Hmm.
So, an insanely competitive housing market, a desperate buyer on the edge. In Marissa Cashino's darkly humorous debut novel, Best Offer Wins, the white picket fence becomes the ultimate symbol of success and obsession. How far would you go for the house of your dreams?
Mm,
18 months and 11 lost bidding wars into the house hunting in the overheated Washington, D.C. suburbs, 37-year-old publicist Margot Miyake gets a tip about the perfect house in the perfect neighborhood, slated to come up for sale in 1 month. Desperate to escape the cramped apartment she shares with her husband Ian, and in turn get their marriage, plan to have a baby, and whole life back on track. So, no small stakes.
casual. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Margot becomes obsessed with buying the house before it's publicly listed and the masses descend, with unbeatable all cash offers in hand. A little stalking? Harmless. A bit of trespassing? Necessary. As Margot infiltrates the homeowners' lives, her tactics grow increasingly unhinged. But just when she thinks she's won them over, she hits a snag in her plan. Undeterred, Margot will prove again and again that there's no boundary she won't cross to seize the dream life she's been chasing. The most unsettling part, you'll root for her even as you gasp in disbelief. Dark, biting, and laugh out loud funny, Best Offer Wins is a propulsive debut and a razor sharp exploration of class, ambition, and the modern housing crisis. Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes, yes, and
Agreed.
yes.
All
Yeah.
agreed on all counts.
Interestingly, there was a bit of exposition, not
Mm.
exposition. What word am I looking for? Thank you. Like the thing where you're describing the thing while not actually saying the thing. Like remember you in Book Jacket Copy how we never want to describe the themes and the like if we're writing genre fiction, we
Oh,
want
the
it just to describe the thing.
editorialization.
Yes, thank you. Um, in my defense, both Carrie and I are both exactly 2 days out of Filler Fest, and so if we're a little slower with the words today, that is why. If you
Yes.
came, it was wonderful to see you. Um, I'm really hope you had a good time. Okay. So editorialization, that is what we have in here. And it also is breaking the fourth wall in the book jacket copy, which is interesting. And it works, right?
Hmm.
Um, because I feel like we're so immersed in Margot's unhinged mind in a way that we need to be
Well,
because we're following her and we're like, yeah, we're rooting for you, even though what you're doing is totally insane.
yes, which I have things to say about, but we'll get there for sure. And it's one of those situations where, all right, I'm going to say them now, I guess, or at
You
least
are.
lead into it. Which is, yes, you are rooting for her. And, we always read these, I think both of us read it at least twice, first to just
Yeah.
take it in and blast through it and just have the experience as a reader. And then we read it again to like, make all of our notes and process for the things we want to talk about in this talk. And I'll confess, the first time I read this, I was like, I don't know, was I rooting for her? I think you and I talked offline a little bit about like there were some things that were a little triggering for me, and the house hunting thing, which I also think is one of the things that makes it so relatable because it is so of this moment, and I mean that in the best way. About like, God, can so many of us relate to all like the all cash offers, the house hunting stuff, and all of the pressure that she's feeling. Like it is such a book of its time. Again, I mean that in the best way. Um, but then as you go through and you do end up rooting for her because everyone else around her is like she takes it to a level that they don't, but nobody is well behaved. Nobody
No.
is doing good things. This is not her against all these people who mean well and are giving it, their best shot. No, everybody is doing some hinky stuff.
Well, except for maybe the sellers, the good husband, not the
The
dickish
good
husband.
husband. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yes. And maybe Natalie, although she's awfully judgy.
No, Natalie deserved what was coming to her. Yeah. Also, the good husband, was so up in arms about just a tiny bit of trespassing. Like, calm down, you know?
He does turn on a
I'm
dime.
kidding. It would be
He
so
does turn
scary.
on a dime. But yes, of course, if you have a small child and then you think someone is actually like low key stalking you,
Yeah, that'd be
that's going to
pretty
happen.
scary. Pretty
Of
scary.
course.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, the other interesting thing I thought that they did with the book jacket copy, and maybe Marissa wrote this, I don't know if she did, genius, is not describing what exactly happens at the midpoint. It's just like as Margot's
Hmm.
behavior becomes increasingly unhinged and we start to wonder how far will she go. That's so well done for this book particularly because the setup, we get it, right? And our
Hmm.
brain, because we're reading a thriller, immediately goes to like, well, she's gonna kill someone. And like throughout the whole book, we don't really have a sense of that until we get to the very end and we're like, oh, yo, no, she is. And it's like for this, it's great. But I thought that the book jacket copy gives you a little taste without giving that away.
Yeah,
Um,
agree.
yeah.
And latching on to something you just said there too. So I'm going to make an argument that by the ways that we sometimes talk about these things, like mystery versus thriller versus horror, this is another one where I'm not saying it's like pure horror because it's not, but I think there's moments that I will make like that I would argue are 100% drawing from that, and so it
Yes.
felt to me like it definitely is this mashup of thriller and horror that I mean, like, the ending in particular, I think the
Oh my
last
God.
two or three paragraphs, I'm like, oh, okay, yes, this is a horror kind of ending. So yeah, again, like I loved that about it. I think it was made it that much more fun. It would have been fun regardless, but like it just added a little something extra, a little spice to it. So
It did. And I mean, spoiler alert, if you listened to us talk before, we're going to spoil everything. But
yes, here we go. We're doing it.
the very end when Ian's cell phone rings again and she's just like, and he's like running scared in their house, right? And she's like, well,
Hmm.
if you ever
He's
leave
just
me,
down in
I'll
the
find
basement,
you.
like
Yeah. And
he spends all his days in the basement. Huh, I wonder why.
And she's like, he can do what he wants as long as he pays half the mortgage, which because we're getting what I want. But then his phone rings again, so clearly he's cheating again. And she's just like, we just wonder like what she's gonna do, right? And we just end it there. It's
Yeah.
just like she hears the phone ringing again. And the previous one she killed his mistress in order to create a murder house, which nobody wants, but that drives down drives lets them be able to get in because otherwise they'll never sell it. And it was so well set up. Like the murder house is introduced fairly early as a concept.
Hmm.
And I think it was even was it chapter? Uh, I wish
Um,
I'd written it down. I don't remember. It's early. It's in like the first three or four chapters where we have the description of the interior designer that redid the kitchen of the old murder house. And
yes.
so this is a villain clue. This is, as Carrie and I like to say, and as, um, I love about thrillers is that mystery, thriller, and suspense and horror is the villain's journey as experienced by the protagonist. And so what the villain is doing is what we have to figure out as authors. And this is also how you create those little like poke through moments where the protagonist ignores it and, moves on, but that it's foreshadowing. It can be used as foreshadowing, which it very much is in this example, right? Like it's not like the murder house had anything to do with her and what she is doing. And she's the villain, by the way, in this. I mean, Ian is really the antagonist because we have to like, he wants the opposite thing and that he wants to not like, do illegal things in order to get this house.
He doesn't want to
Um,
murder anybody. He doesn't
he,
like the stalking. And
no.
he's interestingly, I thought like the whole dynamic around having a baby, which he clearly wants to have a family, but when she starts pushing an adoption narrative to try to endear herself to the homeowners that she's trying to ingratiate herself with, he gets super uncomfortable and wants her to
Yes.
stop pushing this narrative. And it's a little like that was interesting too, right? That it was like, okay, you clearly in some ways you have the same goal, but like how far you both are willing to go to get it, clearly you're not on the same page.
Right. Right. Exactly. Anyway, the foreshadowing is
Hmm.
there. And it's a technically it's a villain clue, but mostly it's just like we are introducing the concept that this is something that happened and like these people's the old murder house like didn't, the value got driven down and it was able to be snapped up by developers and whatever, right?
Hmm.
But she kind of just ignores it and then moves on. And then we see it crop back up where she's like, aha, murder house, like this is how I'm going to do it. Um, and the other thing I think that really does well is when in the beginning we see Ian as somebody who's like on her side and like she's a little bored of him, but she's not, he's not a villain. Like we don't even really know who the villain is like, unless, maybe Curtis, the seller,
Hmm.
maybe because she has to confront him, but he's kind of the false villain and the person that she has to confront in the climactic scene. And then Ian is really the person she has to like take down, but also just more like bend to her will in order to get what she wants.
Well, it's interesting because, like you say, like he's like our most clear antagonist, but I got the sense of her as that the villain character from the beginning, just because even in the
Hmm.
book jacket copy, it is very focused on her and how far she will go, and it says her behavior becomes unhinged.
Yeah.
So, it's not. I mean, other people are driving her to do some of the things, especially in her mind. Like she doesn't have a choice. She's got to do this stuff to get what she wants, to reach her goals. But there are places that I made in my notes too where like she literally is like, well, Ian is sleeping on the couch because like he did this thing and it's his fault or whatever. But really with the events that had just transpired, like, no. And this was not about the cheating thing. This was pre-cheating. Like you did the thing. You were in the, but like he's taking the blame for it. And but yet we're seeing it from her perspective, from us as the readers, we're
Right.
going like, no, no, you're the unhinged one here. But
Right.
she certainly doesn't see it that way. She's going, like this, I'm just doing what I have to do. It was really, so I got the sense of her as the villain, in which case, like, which is unusual. We're keeping our track record intact, Sam, of choosing these things that don't entirely fit the mold, but also manage to do what they do so successfully that like they can break that rule in that way, because they made it work.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, a question that would likely come up if we were talking to people besides us right now is like, is she an unreliable narrator? And the answer is no. She's completely reliable because she believes fully in what she's doing.
mhm.
Even though we, the reader, understand that what she's doing is unhinged, she is reliably narrating to us what her world looks like through her
Yes,
perspective.
yes,
She's
exactly.
not lying to us at any point. Um,
Right, right.
and so
She is all in on her unhinged behavior. She
yeah,
doesn't see anything wrong with what she's
sure
doing.
doesn't. Yeah.
Or if she does, she thinks it's in service of a greater good, which is her having the life that she wants.
Right. And what's to stop her from having the life that she wants? As it turns out, nothing.
Other people getting in her way.
Other people. Yeah. I mean, preach.
Yep,
Um, okay. Delightful. Shall we move on to the first pages?
of course.
All right. Okay. Apologies to anyone listening. I have a little bit of a cold. This is why I sound this way. Okay, moving on. Chapter 1. Ginny calls around 10, just as I'm hanging up with a client. She sounds urgent. Margot, it might be perfect. I have heard this before. 4 bedrooms, renovated kitchen, great yard, right over the DC line. Before you ask, yes, it's in the top choice neighborhood. And guess what? No one else knows about it. It's not listed yet. That part, the it's not listed part, stops me mid-sip of coffee. It pulls me from my little desk by the apartment's floor-to-ceiling window, a hunk of bait that juicy enough to make me forget that it could be wrapped around with sharp, painful hook. Ian comes to a standstill in the kitchen, his hazel eyes zeroing in on me. My sister-in-law does yoga with one of the sellers, Jenny continues at her usual breathless speed. He told her they're putting it on the market at the end of the month. Apparently, his husband got a big new job out of town, so it's all very rushed. But maybe, and I don't want to promise anything here, but maybe that means they're motivated enough to take an offer now before they list it publicly. A surge of hope, that familiar poison, makes my heart stutter. This is the fantasy, the urban legend that everyone house hunting in this godforsaken market latches onto at some point. You hear about a friend of a friend, in my case, that was the cousin of a coworker, who got an inside tip about a house before it hit the market, who swooped in and bought it before the masses could even think about descending. You hope and wish and pray that same thing will happen to you. You take detours through your target neighborhood, scouting for a moving truck or an estate sale sign, any hint at all that might give you the jump on a place before it officially becomes up for sale. You know that the odds aren't in your favor, and yet it has to happen for someone, right? Right? You're sure it's in Grovemont? I asked Ginny, my voice a stage whisper like I'm afraid the secret will get out. Someone lays on their horn 3 stories below, a well-timed reminder of why I hate this place so much. And I'll stop there because that's the first page. But we have so much already apparent, along with Carrie's favorite thing, which is using beautiful word choice to evoke
Mhm.
some very intense things, right? Like we literally have in paragraph 2-ish, um, sharp, painful hook, hunky, a piece of bait, hunk of bait. Um, it's just it's so well done, and we have immediately the setup. We know what the story question is. Like, will she get this house?
Mhm.
That is so clear, which, we both love in a thriller, is like a crystal clear story question. And that's why the log line, it works so well, is because everybody can immediately picture what this story will be about. How far are you willing to go for the house of your dreams? Anyone who has tried to buy a house knows that it's bonkers and it's like heart-wrenching when you picture yourself in a space and it doesn't go well. Um, and Marissa Kashino, just you tapped into this like collective trauma, little t, little t
Yes.
trauma that people have about like having a house slip through their fingers and like not getting this place and how important it becomes once you have all these other things that stack up. So we learn the apartment is too small. We don't get know about the baby, but this is like a lever that gets cranked. And I just think the setup is so, so great. It's so simple. but it's so intense because it draws in like, what is home? What is like everything, right? There's so
Yeah.
much emotion in there.
Yeah, it taps into a lot of fundamental things about home ownership and motherhood and the American dream and what we can all expect. And I think, like to your point, not only just the language that she uses, which, as you said, is something that I love. Um, like you said, the razor sharp hook and the surge of hope, that familiar poison, like that's really great too. Like, oh my gosh. So those kinds of things, like the reason that we point those out, not only are they just delicious, but also they give the reader a great sense of the kind of book that you're reading, right? You
Yeah.
wouldn't, if you're reading women's fiction, and we love the women's fiction equally here, but that's not the way that you would describe hope, probably in a novel that's women's fiction. You would describe it in some other way. Poison is in our lovely MTS horror wheelhouse. Um, the other thing that, oh my gosh, it just went out of my head. What was the other thing? Darn it. It'll come back to
Mm,
me.
it
Ugh,
will.
I hate it when that happens. Sorry, ADHD brain.
It's 2 days out of Filler Fest is what
I
it is.
know. So sorry.
Um, yeah,
Oh,
I
that was
just,
it. I just remembered.
okay.
It was what Sam always preaches, and I, 75 to 80% agree with,
Fighting against.
fighting against. Is in this, and in this instance it works perfectly, and I would not argue that you need to do it any differently. She drops us right into it, right?
Oh,
we
yeah,
are
yeah,
we
yeah.
get the phone call right away, and you can tell in the first 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, like exactly where we are, exactly what these stakes are going to be. And since we know what kind of book it is we're reading, we know it's going to be around like, oh my gosh, yes, she is. Even if we haven't read the book jacket copy, you're clued into the fact that like this is going to be all about what this like home ownership means to her, how far
Yeah.
she's willing to go, and how much emotion is packed behind it. So it's not always the right choice to, I would argue, drop us in immediately, but here it really is, and it just, I love here that she just gets us right into it. It was perfect choice.
Yeah. And we also have quite a bit of dialogue,
Mm.
and enough interiority to give us the translation that we desperately need, right? So here's an example of why interiority is so important. I'm just going to read it with just the dialogue. Margot, it might be perfect. 4 bedrooms, renovated kitchen, great yard, right over the DC line. Before you ask, yes, it's in the top choice neighborhood. And guess what? No one else knows about it yet. It's not listed yet. My sister-in-law does yoga with one of the sellers. Um, you're sure it's in Grovemont, right? Like I skipped a little bit, but
Mhm.
like the interiority is what makes this. It's what gives us that view into Margot's head. It's first person, which I love because the octopus is on the face, and our POV octopus is how we have it's the filter, right? So first person is on your face, third person is attached to the top of your head. Both have relatively little filter compared to something like Omniscient. But the fact that we're just me, we are immediately dropped into Margot's experience and how she translates the world around her. And I also, just a little pet peeve of me, I love that we learn Margot's name in the second paragraph,
Mm.
the first line of dialogue. Like it just answers that question immediately. Like, Margot is a decidedly female name, and then when we have we know who she is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
And to
great.
your point too about like the interiority and what I was saying about like what she's setting up here, like yeah, as Sam was reading the dialogue, if we didn't have the interiority, it's like, okay, well what does this conversation mean? It's just a conversation about real estate. It could mean
Hmm.
any number of things, none of which necessarily have any emotional weight. But when, she's talking about the hope, the familiar poison, this godforsaken market latches on, swooped in and bought it, you hope and wish. And she's describing then behaviors that are like not unhinged at that point, but they're a bit obsessive,
For
So you
sure.
again get a little bit of a hint of like, okay, I see where this is going. I'm starting to develop an understanding of her perspective on what this means for her. And that's what makes it so powerful because we get that meaning behind it. And it's just all these clues to us about like,
Hmm.
I see. And we're probably as readers not necessarily consciously clocking all of this, but we're definitely like we are subconsciously being like, "Yep, I get it. I see where you're leading me." So,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah. And the voice, right? This is an
Mhm.
interiority equals voice.
Yes.
And so to your point about a surge of hope, that familiar poison. she describes it that way. Not everyone would, right?
Right. Exactly.
Um, and we also get enough of a backstory to understand that this is not their first rodeo.
Hmm.
That clearly, even though we're not told, we have put in 25 offers or whatever it is. We learn that a little bit later. We get that by the way that she's describing all of this, that this is something that is very, I mean, I'm repeating what you said about it's very important, but it's also that this is something that they have tried and failed at several times. And we understand the stakes. We can feel the tension
Hmm.
right from page one, right out of the gate. And I think that that's one of the things that makes a really sticky thriller is like you pop it on page one and you're like, oh, I feel this tension. Like I don't even know who these people are really yet. And I'm in because I feel like I read thrillers. We read thrillers to be uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I'm a little uncomfortable, right?
Right? Because we're already getting hints that she's like a little bit obsessive about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to that same point about like as an inciting incident, as we've talked about before, like what makes for a powerful inciting incident, like this could just be a discussion about real estate, but because we get that interiority and we see and we start to feel how much it means to Margot,
Mhm.
that's what makes it impactful.
Yeah.
That is what makes it matter to us because it means so much to her. So it can be
Yeah.
something that is not like, this isn't earth shattering, perhaps. Perhaps to a different person, it would just be like, oh, okay, great. Like, I'm going to put in an offer and hope for the best or whatever. But because there's so much going on behind this, which Marisha then, reveals to us over a series of, I will say, very well executed, I think, placements of backstory along the way.
Yeah.
Then we learn more and more about exactly why this means so much to her. But this is our first hint on page one. We start to get it immediately. And so it doesn't have to be like, somebody died, world just blew up, there's a bomb about
Right.
to go off, any of those things, which are perfectly valid as well. But it can be something smaller like this that when we see what it means to the protagonist, that's what it means to us. And that's, what makes it powerful.
Yes. Well said.
um,
All right, shall we talk about what shall we talk about next? I mean, the sort of anchor, so like the midpoint, um,
mhm.
that uh
Let's see. I know I had it.
yeah, it's a fairly short book actually. We're only
Is it?
269 pages, but a little shorter than
I mean, it didn't
some of
feel
it.
long. It was like great pacing. I think it moved right along, which is
Yeah,
lovely. What we
it
want.
moved right along. So the lead up to the midpoint is that, she realizes that Curtis is evil husband and we'll call the other one good husband. His name is Jack.
Hmm.
And the other daughter Penny. So Curtis is the one who is an author and a lecturer at some university. It totally
Georgetown.
escaped me. Georgetown, thank
Georgetown,
you.
yeah.
And Margot's like, she had Googled his book and like looked at the Amazon reviews and then figured out that there was this one person named Dot who had written like a negative thing and it seemed like there was a secret there. And she's like, this is the only lead I have, right? And in the meantime, she's really messing up at work because she's become so obsessive. And, we have the struggles with infertility and how much they have spent on, IVF and like that whole stressor, which is not a lived experience that I have, but the way that Marissa has described it, I feel like I've lived through it now.
Mm.
Like it's very, very heavy and very real. Um, and so the 50% mark is where she realizes that Dot on this Amazon review, it was like ellipses, three dots, is Dorothy Ross, Dottie, and is this person that she can find. And she's about to go blackmail Curtis. And so it's a midpoint turn in that, you could describe it. We like to describe midpoints as this is the point in the story where the protagonist can't just exit the story anymore, right? Like they're diving in a little deeper. And she's already trespassed. She's already like socially engineered her way in. She's already in pretty deep. But like this is the one where she's like, no, I'm pursuing this with the sole intent of blackmailing Kurt. right?
Yes. This is like lie to my husband, lie to my job, and go out of state for a weekend
Right.
to try to track this person down
Yeah.
and get some dirt so I can blackmail
It's
Curtis into
the
selling me the
it's the
house.
descent.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And what a delight it is. And so then, she goes and has all these conversations, tries to social engineer a little more, lies to a bunch more people, um, and then realizes that her husband is having an affair, which of course just sends her over the edge, but not in the way that we expect. She's depressed for like a
Mm.
day. And then And then she's like, well, I'm going to use this. And then it's just a delightful, just 85% is when she engineers this whole murder plot to frame Natalie, whom she doesn't like because Natalie does not treat her dog well. Fritter, which is, by the way, an amazing name for a dog.
That is an amazing name. That's true.
Um,
I forgot about like I didn't forget about how she treats him badly, but like I didn't, that uh Margot definitely takes care of that dog and
She
Natalie does
does.
not.
She does. And I
Which is
would posit that treating animals badly is certainly worth a level of hell, but
yeah,
murdering
I-
someone,
right there with you.
not probably not the appropriate response.
Fair, fair.
But she's like, to Margot's eye, she's like, I'm taking care of two problems with one stone, like I get the dog and I take care of Ian's mistress, and I'm gonna make that all go away. And I'm gonna get the house. So, she's really just conquering the world.
Yep.
Um, and by the time we get to this point, I remember the first time I read this, um, when did we have the murder house again? She like brings it up. She remembers that this murder house existed. Um,
Of course I didn't write down a percentage, which is my bad. Well, in chapter 32, which was around 89%, at least in my copy. I'm not sure if my Kindle was giving me accurate percentages, so yours might have been different and I would trust yours.
yeah,
But I said it's the DC murder. Like that's when we find out, we get the explanation from Margot that she had used that story as inspiration.
yeah,
So it may have come back earlier, like another hint earlier than that, but that's when she really ties everything together for us. Um,
yeah. Yes, I just Googled my notes or searched my notes, and I have a mention of the murder match mansion right after the midpoint too.
okay, that sounds
But it's
right. Yeah.
not it's not in the way of like, oh, I'm gonna do
This is what
this.
I'm going to do. This is going to be
Right.
inspire me to do this unhinged thing.
Yeah, it's just like another mention, which was so well done. But that was the moment in the book where even though Margot's not like, huzzah, here's my plan, as the reader, I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like this is where she's going with this. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm staying up or whatever I was doing. I just remember like leaning back on the couch and being like, here's my iced tea. Like I'm just gonna crank through the rest of this in one sitting because it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, just chef's kiss. So amazing. Um, and then, she like she has all these moments where she has things like she realizes she's pregnant, she doesn't have a house, and she has a shitty husband, and then a baby who's gonna have to sleep in the closet. And I have on page 221, which is I didn't write down the percentage point, but 228 was 85%. So like right as we're entering into the climactic scene,
Mhm.
um, she's like, as usual, I'll have to be the one who figures it out for all of us. I'll do it for the baby, for the life the two of us are owed. And the agency there, oh my God, right? Like we
So
know she's about to do something absolutely bonkers, but we're like, that makes sense.
So I had that at 82%, which feels about right. As you said, it's right before 85%. I felt like that was maybe the emotional aha moment, which is again kind of why I was like, oh, that's like kind of a horror-ish emotional aha, where it's just like, because I feel warm all over, but not burning, not scalding. It's pleasant. I place a hand over my belly, and a sensation that's at first hard to recognize overcomes me. Peace. As usual, I'll have to be the one who figures it all out for us, but why would I have expected anything different? Whatever it takes to solve this, I'll do it. Certainly not for Ian, but for my baby and for me, for the life the two of us are owed. So that was what I had written down. I was like, I think this
Amazing.
feels like an emotional aha to me, but not as a like,
I
Lives on the
agree.
thing.
I agree. I mean, this is a classic. This actually does fit into our thing that we
Hmm.
comment on all the time. It's like the all is lost at the beginning of that chapter
Hmm.
because she's realized she's pregnant and it's,
Yep.
all the things. And then she's
Yeah.
like, well, here's what I'm going to do about it.
Yes.
And then, we don't see her plan in her head. It's hidden from the reader, but it totally works. Like she picks up Natalie instead of Ian, brings him to the open house, makes Natalie go inside, and then she have written down like makes her way to the side gate to check on the one thing she needs to confirm before they leave. And we don't know what it is, but we're like, oh no, right?
Oh, see, for me, like what I remembered, and I think I even picked up on this the first time. I think I did. Let's give me credit for being maybe kind of smart. If I didn't, whatever. But I remembered because they made a big deal out of it when they first went to the house and she was at dinner with, when she was invited for dinner with
Invited.
Jack and Penny,
Yeah.
and Penny takes her into the basement and says like talks about the cat and how the door is
Yes.
broken and the cat gets in. So when she goes to the gate, I'm like, oh, she's checking on the basement door to see if it's still broken or not. And then like I don't know what she's gonna do, but I know something bad is like
Right.
there's the plan there. And I'm like, oh, I see you connecting the dots here. It's awesome. And now like, what are you gonna do? Why are you checking to make sure you can still get into the basement? Because she's gotten so unhinged there. You don't like, is she gonna wait for? I mean, waiting for them to come home and doing something is not what like you're not going to get the house that way, but at the same time
Right.
I wouldn't put it past her because she's
I
unhinged.
know. And now that we're saying this out loud, this is actually it's so skillfully done in terms of withholding from the reader for a very good reason. And that reason is we don't have to know. And it increases the suspense because while we know she's going to do something unhinged, the suspense comes from not knowing what it is and
Hmm.
just waiting for it, right?
Yes.
And so we are just like tearing through the pages
Yes,
to
because we
see what's
also
going to
have
happen.
trust with her that she's going to tell us what's going
Yes.
on. It's just not going to be in that moment because she's spent the whole time establishing this trust, not withholding from us when, it could be clever to do so. And to your point, she's not
Yeah.
an unreliable narrator, she is
No.
very reliable. She's not lying to us. And so again, like all of that is building the trust. So we're not annoyed at that moment. We're like, oh, please tell me more. Tell me what's going to happen. Whereas if she had been cute with us, if she'd tried to play around and keep things hidden when she shouldn't, like at that point, you might have lost some folks, honestly.
Yeah, I
But
think
because you
so.
didn't, she established the trust. We're in. We're willing to keep going to find out what the heck she's got planned. What is she
Exactly.
gonna do? And it was as crazy as we would expect.
Yes. Well, and as we like to say, twists are just assumptions. And the reader assumptions are going crazy here, right? Because we're like, oh my God, is she going to murder Ian? Is she going to murder Natalie? Like, is she going to sit in the basement and like murder Kurt and, the Jack herself? Like, and then what she ends up doing, I didn't predict. Like,
God, no.
I did not. I mean, I knew she was going to kill someone, but I
Yeah.
was like, I just didn't know which brand of it. And that made it so twisty. It was so fun. Um, her derision for Ian and the power differential between them. So like when we enter the story, Ian actually has kind of a lot of power because she wants what his family has. She wanted that like stable home environment and she has little flashbacks to like talking to her therapist and her therapist asked some very good questions about like, I don't have it written down, but it was something like, are you just trying like do you want him do you remember what the therapist asked? It was something about
No, I
like
don't.
oh man, let's skip that. I don't remember what it
Okay.
was, but
I'm
it was a
sorry.
good
I didn't clock it either, but I vaguely remember what you're talking about, but I don't remember what the questions
yeah,
were.
it was something about like do you want Ian or do you want what he has, right?
Mm.
And she in her mind is like I want what he has.
Hmm.
And so he's always just been like a route to an end, which, at that point, he hasn't cheated yet that she knows about. He has been cheating, but she doesn't know. And so
Mm.
we're kind of like, ooh, a little harsh, and we kind of feel bad for Ian, but he still has kind of that power because he has something she wants.
Yep.
And then in chapter 29, which is right, again, it's right around the 85 like climactic scene, we just learned that she has taken Natalie to the thing. She's already had her emotional realization, and she has this line, has Ian always been such a fucking idiot? And at that point, the power has completely shifted. Like she
Yeah.
has all the power, right? Because she's about to murder his mistress. And that is when, speaking of your reference earlier to well-timed flashbacks, this is when we learn what happened to Blossom the dog.
Mhm.
And long story short, she found a dog. Her mom let her keep it. Her dad sold it when she was at school. And she says, I have never forgiven myself for leaving Blossom alone. And you'd have to be a monster to resist Blossom. I didn't know yet my dad was one. And so, dark and like you
Oh
can
yeah.
totally sort of like it gives us enough of a backstory where we're like, yeah, okay, I kind of see why you are the way you are. Um, but it also
Yeah,
gives
and
us permission to
all
murder
along,
Natalie, right?
yes, and all along she's been building to like an understanding and causing us to empathize with her, even if we might want to, which sometimes her unhingedness made me very
Hmm.
uncomfortable. But we do empathize with her because we've seen, as I was mentioning, they're well-placed little chunks of backstory, never
Yeah.
feels info dumpy about how unstable her home life was, what kind of dad she had, and how rocky her parents' marriage was. So she really has built up and put a lot of weight on all of these things, her life being different from that, and her life being the kind of life that she sees that Ian
Hmm.
had and Ian's parents had. Like she's like, I want to, have the kind of life where my kid comes home to the, Centerfront Colonial and there's cookies baking and like we have a Merry Christmas and it's just like gathered around the fireplace, like, those sort of idyllic things that,
Right.
nobody completely ever has, but you get the idea of like, for especially for someone who had to deal with a lot of trauma and a lot of
Right.
instability. Of course, she feels that way. Of course, that's what she wants, and of
And
course,
she's
that's
gonna
what
do anything to
drives
get it.
her to do what she does.
Yeah. So I just think to your point, like we learn just enough there where we're like suddenly on her side. And so when we get to the next chapter where we learn that Natalie is maybe cheating with Ian or like is pleased that, like I had in my Natalie, she describes Natalie as listening with something like hunger as Margot tells her Ian is cheating and she needs a friend, which of course is all a guise to get her into her house so she can drug her and kill her. Um, but she, we end that chapter at 85% with Natalie passes out and Margot gets a wrench from under the sink and we're like, "Oh God." Right? And like it gets very dark. And then there's a suitcase and this like we have to get the suitcase into the basement and the base has a body in it and it's like this whole thing. And then we skip to chapter 32, which is, probably, if I'm guesstimating, like 87, 88%. Now nearly 5 p.m. on Monday, minutes from the offer deadline. And Derek texts that Derek is the new real estate agent who has no idea any of this has happened. No word yet. And she's worried that they'll never notice the suitcase. And then we have the flashback to the murder mansion that breaks the fourth wall, which was well done,
Mm.
which they did in the book jacket copy too. And I wonder if that wasn't intentional there.
Hmm.
Um, her money is on the developer. Maybe not, maybe the robbery wasn't botched after all. A body dumped, to scare away the competition. And we're like, oh, I see what you did there. And then it hits the news, and then blah, 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 blah. Like, and my favorite line of this whole thing, I think, was this is by far and away the most successful PR campaign of my career. And also, I am no longer interested in preparing his dinner. And it's just like the
So
powers,
good.
like Ian's just like, because like he can't leave.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and then uh is page 252, which is like we're getting toward the end here. Before I go any further, you should know, again, fourth wall, if I'd had a
Mhm.
choice, I would have killed Ian. As a feminist, it's important to me that you understand that. I blame him and I hate him, but I can't qualify for a $1.3 million house without him. And then she
I
explains what she did.
love that. I
Oh God,
mean,
it was good.
it's crazy, but like and it's one of those moments where you're like, what did I actually love right there? But I did love
Yeah, I
it.
just I just straight up loved it. I didn't question anything about what it means about me. I love, I love an unhinged.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. It's all
Yeah.
good.
All good.
Self-fiction.
Is it? It is. Um, yeah. And then she's like, I've never seen Ian look so afraid. She admits it to him to like further lock him in. And she's like, I've always been a multitasker. He says, Margot, I'm not like you. I can't live like this. And she's just like wuss in her head, right?
Right? She's like, get over it.
Yeah. And then she holds out the pregnancy test. He pukes, and then, he can't go anywhere. Why couldn't he leave? She threatens him, I think, right?
She
Or it's
threatens,
like,
yes, she does threaten him with like that, she could, even though she's done some work to actually destroy connections to Ian and therefore to her.
oh, that's right, because it's his mistress who died, and
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
right, they always look at the boyfriend first, and she's,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Although,
And
yeah, because he at some point he's just like, we should come forward, we should cooperate, we should get in front of this. And she's like, are you freaking kidding me? And that's when she brings out the pregnancy test and is like, yeah, you're going to be a dad, basically. So do you want to go through all of this and have like, you're going to be the main suspect because it was your girlfriend, even though
right,
she's done the work of making Natalie the main suspect. And, are you really going to put you and us through that now that you're about to be a dad? So, of
right.
course, he feels completely trapped because he's getting what he wanted. He's like, they're going to be a family.
Yay! Not as all as it seems. And then I have a note that she killed Natalie too, because the amateur sleuths, like they don't figure out who killed. She framed Natalie, right?
Yes.
Planted Natalie's
Yes.
hair and undies in Alex's house.
Yep.
Uh, Alex was the girlfriend.
Mistress. Yeah.
Framed Natalie for it, and then she killed Natalie too, right? It wasn't just
Right,
an
because she
accident
talks
that,
about the cops showing up to the apartment building and they go upstairs and
right,
she has drugged Natalie and drowned her in the bathtub.
right.
But they see it as like, she drowned in the bathtub as like kind of a potential overdose or whatever it was because she had just taken a bunch of pills and so on, which of course uh Margot had given her, slipped them in the wine and then gave
Yeah,
her something else, I think, too. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, whole.
She orchestrated the whole thing from soup to nuts.
Just beautifully done. And then she's not fired for a job that she has royally screwed up at because she announced her pregnancy. And as a former HR professional, I can tell you that
Yeah. Tracks.
that would protect you.
Yeah.
Um, and then as we talked about in the beginning, Ian has another burner phone and the familiar anger rises. And that's like the very last page. It's like 98% or 100% even.
Yeah, I wanted to read that actually, but now I gotta get back to it. On my old epilogue, let's see. Oop. Yeah, so this is where I was just like, oh, we just like there's like the elements of horror here, right? Because
Yeah.
literally this is the last three sentences of the book. A crumpled up prep bag, something vibrating inside, which is how she had found it on the counter, but like later, like when she found it and hid it, and then when she was willing to let him find it again and confronted him about it, it was in a prep bag in his backpack. So this is like the same thing happening again. A crumpled up prep bag, something vibrating inside. Down within the depths of the basement, a power saw screeches on. Fritter whines at the high-pitched sound. A familiar throbbing starts up again behind my eyes. That's the last sentence of the book. And I was like,
So good.
oh, horror! Like,
Yes.
she's back at it. Because all along, too, the thing, and that's what connected this to the emotional aha, I think, nicely as well, is connecting it to this moment and other moments throughout the book, is whenever she's having these real moments of sort of emotional turmoil and overwhelm, it's the throbbing behind the eyes, and she also like gets warm or hot, like so she has
Hmm.
really physical reactions that are very distinct and that she notes at the same moments over and over again. So we know when it starts to happen, like, oh, she's gonna get a little bit unhinged in this moment because shit's going down, and this is how she reacts to it. So she's built up this thing that cues us as readers to say like, oh, well, here Margot goes again, and
Yeah.
to drop that in the last sentence because we know exactly what it means. We're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And you better hold that power saw close because you in trouble.
Yeah. Ian, I would not
Mm-mm.
sleep well if I was you. Um, I'm just thinking about if we're naming the climactic twists, again, it's like what she actually does. We just don't know what she's gonna do, and so the twist is that it ends up being what she's actually done.
Hmm.
Um, the aha happens and the dark night happened before the climactic scene. So she enters the climactic scene with a ton of agency and a ton of power, which is amazing to watch. It makes it very likable-ish. But we're on her side, right? Like even if she's doing something just horrible.
Yeah, we're
Um,
super invested in seeing how it's going to come out, and even if we're not like rooting for her in a traditional sense, we are very
yeah.
engaged with her and all of the agency that she has. We know that she's got all the power. We know she's putting stuff in motion, and we're just like, oh shit, what's going to go down now?
Yeah. And I think the final twist is actually that she didn't kill Ian. Like that is, it's technically a twist because we kind of expected her to, but then we
Mm.
understand she explains why not. Um,
I mean, it could be that it could be like the Natalie reveal. Um,
yeah.
because we don't
Yeah.
like we know what happened with we figure out like okay the person in the suitcase was Alex because she leaves us hanging. We know there's a body in the suitcase, but we don't know
Oh,
who
you're right. You're
for a
right.
bit.
That's
And then we find like so we're going along and like she's put pieces into play. So we actually think like could it be Ian? Could it be Natalie? Could it be Alex? Could it be someone like we just don't know who it is?
right.
And then it's revealed that it's Alex. So then we know, like, well, she was upstairs in Natalie's apartment drugging Natalie. She's got to play a part in this somehow, but we don't know what had happened. And then it's at the very end
And then
that we
she
find out what
reveals.
happened with Natalie. So I think that probably is it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, this thriller was one of the ones in the last year where I just thought it was near perfection. I mean, I can't think of a single thing that I didn't just absolutely love. I ripped through this book the first time, I ripped through it the second time. It checked all the boxes for me. It was
Yeah.
like unhinged main character who lets us into her head and lets us know why she's doing what she's doing. Um, enough of enough reasons, not that murdering anyone is ever the correct choice, but we're writing fiction, so but enough reasons for why she kills all the people around her to get what she wants, right? Like Ian is cheating, Alex, his mistress, is innocent-ish bystander, but like,
She was
complicit
cheating
in the
too. Yeah.
cheating.
Complicit. Perfect word. Yes.
Natalie is abusing a dog, and Kurt is a jerk who stole writing from one of his students, right?
Yeah.
And so we're like, yeah, no, that makes this just tracks. You did all the things to get what you wanted. And then she gets her dream house in the end and she's like, well, I have done my thing, like I have achieved my goals. Um, it's awesome. I just
Well, and
loved
again,
it.
like tying it back, she sets up all of this from page one.
Yeah.
What it's going to be, why it's important to her. And so when we come full circle in the end, whether we were rooting for her or not, and I think I told you that like this brought up some stuff for me because I have some home ownership stuff. So when I first started reading this, I was like, I don't know if I can make it through it because it's bringing up all like I've experienced all of this. I have not murdered anyone and put them in a suitcase. Hence, I am still living in an apartment. But I understand some of the impulses because like real estate is bananas these days, especially if
Bananas.
you live in a major metropolitan area, but not just there. It's just that way
Yeah.
everywhere. And so I feel like she really tapped into so many things that like you were saying in the beginning, we can all or a lot of us can relate to some of this. If we haven't gone through it, we know somebody who has, somebody we love or care about or whatever.
Right.
We've all felt this pain in some way, and there's just a lot of things wrapped up in home and family and American dream and like they said the class stuff
Yeah.
and then like I mean there it wasn't front and center in many ways but like there were moments where it was touching on some racial issues like that moment where the woman in the park thinks that she's Jack's nanny. I mean that was like
Hmm.
oh God, and you could
Hmm.
just totally see it happening, so that was a lovely cringe-worthy moment.
Yeah.
I mean, she just like she really, like you said, she packaged this all up so well, and it was such a complete package. So, despite my some of my inner turmoil about the stuff that it brought up in my personal life, it was a great read, and I actually think I enjoyed it even more on the second go around, and I enjoyed it the first time. So, well done, Marish. Thank you so much for writing this
Thank
book.
you so much for writing this book. Adored. Five
Yeah,
out of 5 stars.
indeed.
All right. Well,
I
thank you
think that's
all
it
for
for us.
listening.
Yeah.
We appreciate you listening to us. We are ShadowsandSecrets.com. We would love to have you join our online membership or come to one of our delightful retreats in haunted places. and we'll see you next time.
We will see you next time. Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
bye.
Bye.